Let's start this week's show with a look back at events in Belgium over the weekend. We had the Belgian Darts Open, the first of 13 stops on the Euro Tour for 2024, and Luke Littler wins the title on his Euro Tour debut. He's now in a provisional spot for the World Match Play, probably got that Blackpool B&B already booked up now, but should we be surprised anymore at what this young man is achieving in his debut season on the PDC Tour?
No. Moving on, a lot of talk about the... we'll come to that other question later. But seriously, no, we shouldn't be. There's nothing to be surprised about. We saw in the World Championships just how good he was, and how unfazed he was by pretty much everything that could be thrown at him. I've still had my doubts. I still have some. It's still early in the season, and he's still going to lose more than he wins in terms of tournaments, not matches. Overall, he's going to win more matches, a lot more matches than he's going to lose, but he's not going to win more than 50% of the tournaments. He hasn't done that, obviously, in the Premier League. Yeah, he's won his first Players' Championship event, but he lost the next three. Yeah, he's won his first Euro Tour, but I don't expect him to win six of the next 12. He's not even in two of the next three to begin with. So if you look at it, he is going to lose more tournaments than he wins, and we still don't know how he's going to fully respond to losing. This past weekend was a great sign for him, and it is a sign that maybe those fears aren't really a long-term fear. I never thought they were. I thought they were more of a short-term, but short-term can still be a year or so. But there have been some signs in the Players' Championships when he's gone out, he hasn't bounced back right away. And on those Euro Tours, he didn't bounce back right away. The qualifiers, I mean. But he did bounce back from a tough loss in the Premier League after a brutal loss in one of the matches of all time at the UK Open, and he bounces back by one of the greatest Euro Tours we've ever seen. More 180s than anyone's thrown in a Euro Tour weekend. Averaged over a ton in 5 of the 6 matches. The only time he fell below it in that second round against Krzysztof Ratajski, where he averaged an abysmal 97. Just an absolutely fantastic weekend from Luke Littler, and there's not really any reason to be surprised about it. He's taken on players who are in form and beaten them. He averaged 110 against Jermaine Wadamina, who had already won 3 matches impressively up until then, and averaged nearly 103 himself in that match. He beat him 6-2 with the 110 average. And in the final, Rob Cross just played a brilliant match, missed a bowl for the title, and kept coming back. Rob Cross kept inching in front, and Luke Littler stuck with that 108 of Rob Cross the entire way, threw a 9-darter in the 11th leg to take the lead, and even after Cross came back, took back the lead and nearly closed it out in the 14th leg. Luke Littler hit double 5 last dart in hand, and then did give the former world champion a sniff in the 15th and final. Well, I guess he gave him a sniff at a 100, but he didn't get a dart at double from it. And in the end, Luke Littler was the champion, and Luke Littler answered every question that was asked of him that weekend, and then some. It was just another sensational weekend, but not a surprising one. There's not any surprise that this kid has. Is he as good as Phil Taylor or Michael Van Gerwen were at their best? The early signs are yes. The early signs are he can do everything they did. It's still early signs, and there's still more I want to see from him. And I still think there will be learning and growing pains as the season goes along. But I will never be surprised if Luke Littler coming out of a weekend with a title, averaging over 100 in all but one match, because that's pretty much par for the course for him. Or at the very least, the statistics are par for the course. There are players who can throw it back at him. Rob Cross did it in the final. Damon Hedda did it in Minehead, and came pretty close to doing it again this past weekend in Visa, and other players will do it from time to time. But Luke Littler rarely takes a leg off, let alone a match off, and that's why there's really nothing surprising about his dominance.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm in the same camp as you. People that aren't surprised anymore by what Luke Littler is doing. And you mentioned a few names there, Phil Taylor, Michael Van Gerwen. It does feel different, doesn't it? It does feel like we are watching the next incarnation in the line of Eric Bristow, Phil Taylor, Michael Van Gerwen. These are names, these are players that transcend an entire sport, and for some people they may be bigger than the sport. For a lot of years, darts was Phil Taylor. You thought of darts and you immediately thought of Phil Taylor. He was the one name on everybody's lips when it come to darts, and it was the same with Eric through the 80s, then MVG for a more recent period as well. And Luke Littler, he may not have that glittering CV of world titles, of major titles that Bristow, Taylor, Van Gerwen have got, but he has got that star power, hasn't he? And obviously his age is a factor in this. At 17, we very rarely see such brilliance from players this age on a global stage and in front of thousands in the crowd and the many more people that are watching at home. So I've said it before, I think it is that freedom that he plays with. Very rarely does he seem flustered or not at ease when he's up on the stage throwing darts. And for those of our listeners here in the UK, you might have seen his appearance on the Jonathan Ross show at the weekend, a popular chat show over here. Luke, he was only on it for the last 10 or so minutes, and spoiler alert, it wasn't live, it was pre-recorded, but it was the only time that Luke looked a little uncomfortable on screen all weekend, because when he's playing darts, it just looks so natural and effortless. And the run to the world final, that did take everyone by surprise, and you might have tipped him to win a few games, get past Christian Kist and Andrew Gilding, make it through to that last 32, maybe make the quarterfinals. But I think the way he performed at Ali Pali, the levels that he produced, no one saw that coming. And the World Series in Bahrain, that was less surprising, but still, after all the hype, the noise that followed the World Championships, you would have expected for there to be a drop-off and for there to be an effect on his game because of that. But he rocks up, throws the 9-darter, wins the title. The Players' Championship title had a 9-darter in there as well. I think for some of us, and I'm including myself in this category, that was one of the last question marks that I had with Luke Littler, was could he do it on a cold, and we know it was cold as we found out, but on a cold Monday in Wigan in these floor events. And he won the title on his debut, another debut ticked off with a title, the European Tour. We know Luke Littler, he can play darts to a world-class level anywhere, and the rate of 9-darters, that is extraordinary. He's had one in the World Series, he's had one in the Players' Championships, he's had one on the Euro Tour now as well, 3 for the season, and we still are only in March, so you'd expect that rate of 9-darters to slow down. But the success he's having in his debut year, that surely is only going to continue.